Or
all right, no, come over here, come over here, come over here. All right. All right, here we go. So, when starting a debate, the most important thing to do is define your terms. So this particular resolution is unique in that the entire debate is completely definitional. So with that in mind, I will draw your attention to 3 points. 1, a sandwich is most commonly defined as a single food item consisting of ingredients, often but not exclusively meat and toppings, which is held by bread. Number 2, a hot dog is a single food item consisting of meat and usually toppings, which is held by bread. Therefore, a hot dog is, by definition, a sandwich. That's all there is to it. The overwhelming majority of common sense definitions from multiple sources align with those points. I'm sure my opponent will attempt to construct an artificially narrow definition of what a sandwich is, and I will endeavor to demonstrate in each case the unintended or even ridiculous implications of such a definition. So Eli, thanks for having me over to your house. I'm happy to see that you have mustered up the courage to debate this vital topic. It's an opportunity that I relish. And so let me be frank. This is truly one of the defining issues of our time. And I simply hope that as we doggedly pursue the truth, that we can meet the challenge. So I think we're off to a good start, and I'm on a roll. So I will go ahead and pass the mic and see if you can catch up.
So I actually only heard 1 point there by my opponent, and that was that a sandwich is something that's held by bread, so it's not a hot dog. I didn't get to his other 2 points. Maybe he's going to bring those up in his next speech, but I will fill those in on the flow when we get to them. At first, I will present my side of things. So a couple observations. Our job is to define this, a hot dog. Simple enough. To define something, you have to look at 2 things: the denotation, its technical definition, and its connotation, what most people think it means. Hot dogs are not sandwiches. In 2015, The Atlantic openly declared that hot dogs are not sandwiches. They presented a 4-pronged test for sandwiches. 2 exterior pieces that are either separate or mostly separate. Those pieces must be primarily carbohydrate-based, and the whole assemblage must have a primary horizontal orientation, so sitting flush with the plate rather than perpendicular to it. And it must be fundamentally portable. Hot dogs clearly fail the 3rd prong of the test because the exterior pieces sit perpendicular to the plate. This is why the expert community rejects sandwich tyranny, including the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, which said, quote, as the official voice of hot dogs and sausages, the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council, NHDSC, is primed to settle this debate once and for all. And our verdict is a hot dog is an exclamation of joy, a food, a verb describing one showing off, and even an emoji is truly a category unto its own. The hot dog is in a class by itself. First, note that a hot dog stand is its own genre of food stand. If the hot dog was only one of many sandwiches, it would make no sense to sell it by itself. That would be like selling only PB&Js. The hot dog is in a class by itself because it transcends the limitations of the sandwich genre. Conversely, consider that stores which pride themselves on sandwiches often do not carry hot dogs. That includes Panera Bread, where I worked for many years making thousands of sandwiches, but none of them included hot dogs. Actually, I didn't work there for many years. That's a lie. I worked there for 6 months. But the point is, people know what hot dogs are, and when and people know what sandwiches are. And when you think of the word sandwich, what pops into your head is not this. And when you go to a sandwich store like Subway or Panera Bread, you do not expect to find a hot dog because they are different things by the denotation, and later we'll get into some connotation and some technical definitions as well. And I'll pass the mic back to my opponent.
All right, a lot to digest there, so I'll try and tackle them one at a time. So first off, the definition game. So my opponent brings up the Atlantic article, which lists the 4 key criteria that they say a hot dog or a sandwich must meet. And you're correct. Hot dogs clearly only meet 3 of those 4 definitions because they are not primarily a horizontal orientation sitting flush with the plate rather than perpendicular to it. However, you know what else fails one of those 4 tests? Hoagies, open-faced sandwiches, meatball subs. However, 2 slices of pizza facing each other do meet all 4 criteria, as do Oreos. So based on this, I think it's safe to say that the Atlantic article here is a faulty definition. It is unnecessarily restrictive and narrow. I prefer to use any of the other definitions online. Merriam-Webster defines sandwich as 2 or more slices of bread or a split roll having a filling in between. Alternatively, 1 slice of bread covered in food. Merriam-Webster's definition of hot dog is a frankfurter, especially one served hot in a long, soft roll and topped with various condiments. Clearly, those two line up. Now, Wikipedia defines a sausage sandwich as a sandwich containing cooked sausage. In that page's section on the United States, it also says that, quote, one variety, colloquially known as the hot dog, is particularly popular. Wikipedia's list of American sandwiches includes sausage sandwiches, which includes hot dogs. Dictionary.com defines a hot dog as, quote, a sandwich consisting of a frankfurter in a split roll, usually eaten with mustard, sauerkraut, or relish. Google defines a sandwich as, quote, an item of food consisting of 2 pieces of bread with meat, cheese, or other filling between them, eaten as a light meal, or something that is constructed like or has the form of a sandwich. It also defines a hot dog as, quote, a frankfurter, especially when served hot in a long soft roll and topped with various condiments. Even Urban Dictionary defines a sandwich as, quote, a food commonly used by men to oppress women. And a hot dog clearly meets this definition. After all, what has been used to oppress women throughout history more than wieners? Incidentally, the second definition of sandwich under Urban Dictionary is hobo currency. And a hot dog seems to meet this standard as well. Incidentally, I will not tell you what Urban Dictionary's definition of a sausage sandwich is. So, on the definition game, every major source that actually uses a definition of what a hot dog is and what a sandwich is finds the two unequivocally parallel with one another. And I'll go ahead and pass it back.
So my opponent listed a lot of definitions, but that's all they are. They're just a string of words. There's no experts attached to them, and there's no explanation for why they've reached this particular definition. And I do have that type of explanation. First, again, reviewing some of the things I brought up in my last speech, the National Hot Dog Council and the champion hot dog eater, the man who wins this competition every year where they eat a bunch of hot dogs, he has said that they're definitely not sandwiches. People who know hot dogs say they're not sandwiches. And I would say, as someone who knows sandwiches and works in a sandwich shop, I know that a hot dog is not a sandwich. And this is why we really need to pay attention to something important with language, and that is connotation. What most people think a word means, which is the most important part, not just its technical definition. Pay attention to one of the technical definitions my opponent gave. He said that a hot dog is just something that's used to impress women. That is...
No, not impress, oppress. Sorry.
Something used to oppress women. That's so far from what people actually think. And definitions should always be what people actually mean to communicate, think about a word. The hot dog originated with its bun simply to hold it. It was a holding mechanism that the man who brought them into America and was selling them at baseball games used. And the focus was on the dog, and it just happened to include a bun to hold it. Sandwiches are about the bread. The bread is very important. I worked at Panera Bread. We had a bunch of different types of bread that we put on our sandwiches, and sandwiches are carefully crafted bread products. And a hot dog is just a hot dog which happens to have bread to hold it. Again, its orientation is completely wrong, and my opponent hasn't yet given us a reason why to think the Atlantics experts and their 4-prong test were wrong in what they were saying about the hot dog. Clearly, it should be like this. This is how we always eat a hot dog. The Atlantics definition does account for hoagies and other things because we eat them like this. We never eat them like this. We always eat this like this. And people who eat that, like how he's eating that, is that they're just absolutely wrong when they do that. In fact, the USDA says that a hot dog has to be, a sandwich has to be at least 50% meat, because again, we're seeing equal parts bread and meat. Bread is important. A hot dog is almost always a third or less, a quarter of what makes up a hot dog.
All right, so a bunch of stuff there to tackle. So first off, the idea of, oh, it's just the bun is just a holding mechanism. Well, let me give you a bit of a history lesson on the sandwich. It was created by the Earl of Sandwich, who was looking for a way to conveniently eat his entire meal with one hand. So it was a way of taking all of the normal ingredients, the meats, the cheeses, potentially some vegetables, and putting them between two slices of bread as a holding mechanism. So in that case, actually, a bun is exactly in keeping with the original definition of a sandwich. Now, my opponent also says, oh, it has to be 50% meat. First of all, USDA definition, we'll get to this a little bit later, is mainly for economic and regulatory purposes, not for definitional purposes. Now, the biggest one that my opponent says, he said that I don't have any experts that back up my claim. Well, that is not quite true. So, Joseph Girth, columnist for the Courier Journal, wrote a scathing op-ed in USA Today criticizing the publication that he writes for, the Courier Journal, for its rejection of over a century of tradition and its capitulation to the wiener industry hype. Michael Quinn, a Frankfurter expert, owner of Feltman's on Coney Island, and the operator of the Coney Island blog dedicated to hot dog enthusiasts, says that it is a sandwich. So does Merriam-Webster. Alton Brown, Food Network host of the show Good Eats and all-around food scientist and expert, also says that it is a sandwich, according to his Twitter. Finally, Gregory Guidotti, if that's how it's pronounced, who is the head of marketing at Oscar Mayer, said, quote, I personally believe that a hot dog is a sandwich because of the dictionary definition. The dictionary defines a hot dog as a sandwich consisting of a Frankfurter and a split roll. I was an English major as an undergrad, and that's what it means, end quote. So we can throw experts back and forth, sure. But the important thing here is that it isn't a matter of what one person's opinion of it is. It's a matter of what is the actual definition of the word. The National Hot Dog and Sausage Council says that a hot dog is too good to be called just a sandwich, right? They say that saying the hot dog is just a sandwich is like saying that the Dalai Lama is just a guy. Granted, but the Dalai Lama is still a guy. And a hot dog being more than just a sandwich is still, by definition, a sandwich.
I'd like to point out that in that speech, my opponent never really got into the whole denotation connotation argument. And again, I think it's extremely important that we look at the connotation, how people actually use words, because words are important. They have meanings, and those meanings have always meant the same thing. Like I said at the end of my first speech, when you hear the word hot dog, you think of this. When you hear the word sandwich, you think of what Panera Bread and Jimmy John's and Subway sell. You don't think of a hot dog, and most hot dog stands don't sell sandwiches, and most sandwich shops don't sell hot dogs because they are two different things. He mentioned the Earl of Sandwich. It's important to point out that when the sandwich originated, it was perpendicular. It's always remained perpendicular. Even in open-faced sandwiches, it's always perpendicular to the plate, and it was meant to be held with both hands and eaten. The point of a hot dog is that it was not perpendicular, that it could be wrapped like a glove around what you were eating, and you could consume it. Now, earlier he mentioned you have to admit some other things are sandwiches like Oreos and ice cream sandwiches. That's absolutely true. And the team that examined this at The Atlantic agrees with that. They admit Oreos are sandwiches, ice cream sandwiches are sandwiches, but a hot dog cannot be, because for all of time, a sandwich was perpendicular to the table, and a hot dog is clearly not. It's meant to be eaten in a different way, and it's not shared. He talked some about why we shouldn't listen to the USDA, but again, the USDA is pretty authoritative on this. Even the National Hot Dog Council mentions the USDA. The National Hot Dog Council, sure, they're saying that he said that they said a hot dog is not just a sandwich, and that somehow some sort of admission. That's not exactly what they meant. What they were saying is a sandwich is so much less than what a hot dog is. A hot dog is an improvisation. It's better. It's a new development in the history of food. The experts are on my side. The man who wins the competition every year eating hot dogs says that a hot dog is not a sandwich. And I have comprehensively defined the term, whereas my opponent has given a bunch of different statements about a sandwich, but he hasn't said why we should accept any of his definitions, and why it's important, why those definitions are fundamental or not fundamental to what a hot dog is. Again, at the end of the day, when I went into Panera and we crafted those sandwiches, it was about bread. Bread was very important. USDA says it has to be 50%, and people expect the sandwich.
All right, so my opponent talks about the difference between denotation and connotation. Absolutely correct, right? The denotation is what the actual definition in the dictionary, Wikipedia, Google, dictionary.com, Merriam-Webster, all of which back up my side. But the connotation, legitimate point, right? If the vast majority of people agree that a term refers to a particular thing or does not refer to a particular thing, there's definitely some weight to be given there. However, the very fact that this was such a contentious issue and the fact that it became a meme and the fact that we're debating it right now means that clearly public opinion is not settled. You remember the Buffalo Bills had a viral thing for a while where they were asking people in the locker room, and opinions were split about 50-50 on whether or not a hot dog was a sandwich. So to claim that the vast majority of people don't believe that a hot dog is a sandwich is simply an ignorance of the vital importance and the controversy that surrounds this issue. Now, saying, oh, a food is in a class by itself, it's different. Again, a hot dog is not just a sandwich, correct? But as a marketing gimmick, maybe. But there's endless examples of similar rhetoric from countless ad campaigns, right? Think about the Keds campaign. It's not a running shoe. It's a run the world shoe. It's still a running shoe. Right? It's not a glass. It's a chalice, right? Or think it's not a car. It's a Subaru. Or it's not a car. It's a Volkswagen. Or it's not a car. It's an Alfa Romeo. Apparently no cars are actually cars. Think of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's not a jacket. It's a duster. Hyperbole, for the sake of distinguish, is not the same as definition. Now, mention the USDA, right? That brings us into the category of legal definitions, and there are plenty of those to go around. And again, like public opinion, they are split. California tax code refers to, quote, hot dog and hamburger sandwiches. So under California law, hot dogs are sandwiches. Under New York law, sandwiches, quote, sandwiches include cold and hot sandwiches of every kind, whether made on bread, bagels, rolls, pitas, wraps, or otherwise, and regardless of the filling or number of layers. A sandwich can be as simple as a butter baguette or roll, or as elaborate as a 6-foot toasted submarine sandwich. They specifically include hot dogs in their list in the tax code. Now, there are other cases as well. There was a Massachusetts Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Locke who ruled that burritos were not sandwiches, didn't rule on hot dogs. And of course, the USDA has definitions for both sandwich and sandwich-like product. The sandwich definition is, quote, a meat or poultry filling between two slices of a bread, a bun, or a biscuit. A hot dog clearly meets that definition. However, it doesn't really matter anyway, because an unelected government bureaucracy doesn't have the authority to define reality. Even majority opinion doesn't necessarily define something absolutely. The fact that public opinion is split on the matter, necessitating this debate in the first place, is proof that there is not some sense of consensus as to what a sandwich is or what a hot dog is.
I'm going to be covering quite a lot of stuff in this speech. First, I want to point out that my opponent never addressed my 4 criteria from the Atlantic. He never said why we shouldn't believe him. And again, I've said for all time, since the Earl of Sandwich invented the sandwich has not and will never be perpendicular to the plate. It will be parallel to the plate. I'm really bad at math, so I might have said the opposite earlier. I want to point out two quotes I have that I actually realized he had kind of turned around. He said that the National Hot Dog Council might have admitted that hot dogs are sandwiches. Actually, they did the opposite of that. And I have 2 pieces of evidence I want to read about this. They said, quote, as the official voice of hot dogs and sausages, the National Hot Dog and Sausage Council is primed to settle this debate once and for all. Our verdict is a hot dog is an exclamation of joy, a food, a verb describing one, showing off, and even an emoji. It is truly a category unto its own. They said it is unique. The National Hot Dog Council said that a hot dog is in a different category than sandwich. Also, they said it's a verb and a sandwich is not a verb. So they are absolutely separate. And I finally want to get to this. National Hot Dog Eating Champion, Joey Chestnut, he said that it's National Hot Dog Day, and as president, I want it to be known the hot dog stands free and independent from the tyranny of the sandwich. Sandwich has been tyranny for hundreds of years. It's existed for far longer than the hot dog. It required 2 hands, it had to be perpendicular, and it was boring. And then one day, people invented a one-handed, open you know, opposite turned parallel. I'm sorry, opposite turned way of eating it, which revolutionized the world, and it is totally different. Finally, I want to bring up some things about the USDA. They say for an open sandwich that it must be at least 50% cooked meat. Because again, sandwiches are about meat and bread. At Panera, we put a lot of effort into our bread. It was meat and bread, 50-50. Sandwiches are both. A hot dog is just a bunch of extra bread holding a meat. And it's not 50-50. So the hot dog does not meet the USDA's definition of an open sandwich, and it's obviously not closed. And the USDA even talks about all sandwiches having to contain meat. We know that's not true. So it's very clear. Well, I'm sorry. 50-50. Both are important, bread and sandwiches, and that's the truth now and the truth always.
All right, now, 50% meat, right? That sounds really good until you think about, what about a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? Is it not a sandwich because it doesn't have 50% meat? No, that's an absurd definition. And again, government definitions, legal definitions, prioritize economic concerns, not scientific ones when they attempt to define the meanings of different types of food. Legally, a tomato is not a fruit. It's a vegetable, according to the 1893 Supreme Court ruling Nix v. Hedden, which had a serious impact on U.S. customs regulation. This is despite the fact that scientifically, it's a fruit. Again, legal definitions prioritize economic concerns, not scientific ones. Now, my opponent keeps talking about the National Council of Hot Dogs. And again, every quote that he brings up from Joey Chestnut, the hot dog champion, from the National Council, all of the releases read with a sense of hyperbole, right? A hot dog isn't a sandwich. It's a class unto its own. That's exactly the same as when Subaru runs an ad that says it's not just a car, it's a Subaru. Or when Volkswagen says it's not a car, it's a Volkswagen. Or when an Alfa Romero says it's not a car, it's an Alfa Romero. The hyperbole is not definition. And I hope we don't have to keep coming back to this point, because there's plenty of other stuff to get to. Again, and this isn't about cherry picking definitions either. Remember, a hot dog can mean show off. We're not going to sit here and argue that a show off isn't a sandwich, right? The clear reading of the resolution is a commonly accepted definition of hot dog. That is the sandwich, not just the meat. And so my definition, it has to include the bun. You know, my definition, don't want none unless you've got buns on. And the definitions across the board, and I can rattle back through them again if I need to, but I don't think I need to get back into it unless my opponent really decides that's where he wants to go. But again, the definitions from Wikipedia, from dictionary.com, from Merriam-Webster, from Google, even Urban Dictionary, which is a little bit joking, all of those back up the simple fact that a hot dog meets the literal, scientific, or literary definition of what a sandwich is.
No, the debate is not done. I am arguing. My wife was just asking if the debate was done over on the couch over there. But I want to point out again, my opponent has not addressed why we shouldn't follow the Atlantic's criteria given to us at the beginning of the round that make a lot of sense. They're all sandwich till now. The sandwich has always been parallel to the table, not perpendicular. The USDA experts all agree that the hot dog is a class unto its own. And not just speaking with hyperbole. Again, he hasn't addressed connotation. People don't think of a hot dog as the sandwich, and they don't expect to get a hot dog at places where sandwiches are sold. If you go into a Jimmy John's, if you go into a Subway, if you go into a Panera Bread, you do not expect to find hot dogs, because hot dogs, like the National Hot Dog Council said, are a class on their own. They are separate. They are better. They're unique. And they are something wonderful. They are less than 50% meat, which the USDA says a sandwich has to be if it's open-faced. But that is because, you know, the bread isn't that important in a hot dog, and it is important in a sandwich. And that connotation, that common usage does matter because words have meaning, and how people use words is important. We can't just say all sorts of random stuff and expect to be able to communicate with people. We live in a civilized society, and we have to accept what people have called stuff over time, in addition to what it could technically maybe be stretched to mean, but not what it actually means in reality. If you tell someone, I'm going down the street to the hot dog stand, they know you're going to a hot dog stand. But if you tell someone, I'm going to the sandwich shop, they do not expect, nowhere in their minds does there appear the image of anything that looks like a hot dog. And for that reason alone, we have to accept the importance of connotation and vote to uphold the fact that hot dogs are not sandwiches. Thank you.
Well, first of all, connotation. Again, I've already said this once. People do not think of a hot dog as a sandwich, and people do think of a hot dog as a sandwich. That's why there's a controversy, right? The idea of, a food stand, I'm going down to the hot dog stand, right? Oh, well, if I say I'm going to a sandwich shop, then I just have to do it there, right? No, Steak and Shake doesn't sell steak, right? They don't even really sell great shakes, but I digress. 50% meat, even Subway doesn't give you 50% meat. Come on, the portions are awful at Subway. We all know that, right? But it's still a sandwich because the 50% meat is a completely arbitrary, unnecessarily narrow definition, as is the idea of something being perpendicular, right? Lobster rolls are not perpendicular. Hoagies are not perpendicular. Flatbreads are not perpendicular. The little deli sandwiches that you eat, and they're tiny and they're in the shape of triangles, they stand upright. They're not perpendicular. Again, unnecessarily narrow definition, right? In my opponent's fervor to exclude hot dogs, he's also excluding plenty of other things that are clearly sandwiches. For example, right, split bun, right? The vast majority of submarine sandwiches have split buns. Any arbitrary definition that's going to exclude something that is sold at Subway, right? A hoagie, a flatbread, a little deli sandwich, right? PB&J doesn't have 50% meat, right? And you're not going to find those at Quiznos. So the idea of, I'm going to a sandwich shop, right? That doesn't really apply either. So again, the legal aspect, right? USDA. Oh, well, he is not addressing the fact that the USDA talks about open sandwiches. Again, the USDA's definition that he's using is the 50% meat definition, which, as I've already established, doesn't really apply to what we're talking about here. Now, finally, the Atlantic article, right? Again, he's brought up pretty consistently. I mentioned that right at the beginning in my first speech. To qualify as a sandwich, it has those 4 criteria it must meet. We all agree that hot dogs meet 3 out of those 4. What is that 4th one? The whole assemblage must have a primarily horizontal orientation. And as I just said, lobster rolls, hoagies, flatbreads, triangle deli sandwiches, none of those things have a horizontal orientation. Neither do Oreos, depending on how you eat them. But those are still universally considered sandwiches because the Atlantic's definition is arbitrarily narrow. And it disregards the views of other experts, like the head of marketing for Oscar Mayer, the owner of one of the Coney Island Frank shops, Alton Brown, right, who's one of the best-known food scientists on the planet, Joseph Girth, the columnist who wrote a scathing USA Today op-ed on the topic. So we can throw the idea of different experts back and forth, and they're split, just like the United States population and the world's population is split on this incredibly divisive issue.
My opponent still doesn't address the fact that people understand words and words have meaning to people. When you hear hot dog, this is what pops into your head. When you hear sandwich, something like that pops into your head. You talked about flatbread sandwiches. I don't know how he eats flatbread sandwiches, but they're not eaten like that. They're eaten like this. Same way all sandwiches are eaten. And they are parallel to the table, not perpendicular this ways. And that's how it's always been for all of history.
Again, to reiterate that point one last time, people do think of a hot dog as a sandwich. Plenty of people, members of the Buffalo Bills, all the experts I just cited, every public opinion poll online that's been conducted on the topic has found a fairly decently even split between the two because this is a controversial issue. So we have to look not just at popular opinion, which, like I said, is split. We have to look at the actual definition. Truth is subjective. Words have meanings. A sandwich consists of ingredients held by bread. A hot dog consists of meat held by bread, and a hot dog is by definition a sandwich. I've provided no fewer than a dozen different definitions from various sources, both hot dog and sandwich, to support my case. Common sense definitions align with these points. My opponent has attempted to construct an arbitrarily narrow definition of what a sandwich is. In his attempt to disqualify hot dogs, he's also disqualified lobster rolls, hoagies, deli sandwiches, flatbreads, anything that you eat at a slight angle. It's untenable and it defies common sense. With that, I will close, pass it back to you for 4 seconds, and hope that the voters and the judges will declare me the winner. And my definition, don't want none unless you got fun. Actually, I was really hoping that you would mention the meat argument just so I could use that one-liner. That was such a good one.
I'm kind of dizzy.
The thing is, Eli.
That was the most intense one I've done.
You did so well.
Eli, listen, you are such an empathetic person that Ben's mere charisma knocked you off your perch.
No, it wasn't the charisma, it was his arguments. I had nothing.
No, this is how you work with people in general, Eli. You think so well of people in general that you literally aren't willing to see their flaws. And so Ben was so charismatic that you literally, your confidence was knocked off. There is always an opposing argument.
I have the pants already because I read them. I should get the.
Ben is self-deprecating superficially, but he believes in himself. You need to believe in yourself too. That was your main issue today. You had something to work with, and maybe it could have been better. But the thing is, the execution is where things went off the rails, and that's because you didn't believe in yourself.
Hey, you know, Matt.
But I'm just like so